Israel was the northern kingdom. And how many tribes were in the northern kingdom? 10. And who did the dance of deception in the story of Jezebel and Ahab? The prophets of Baal. Were the prophets of Baal false prophets? Okay, throughout the scriptures, this is the subject of end-time Bible prophecy. How the dragon, beast, and false prophet come together when the deadly wound is healed. Okay? So what I want you to see, there's a reason that I went there, brothers and sisters. Here's what I want you to see. There's a lot more to be said about Revelation 17. But what is Revelation 18? Every Adventist should know this. What is Revelation 18? It's the fourth angel's message, is it not? Verse 1, a mighty angel comes down out of heaven, and the earth is lightened with his glory. Okay, this is the fourth angel that joins the third. This is the loud cry of the third angel's message, is it not? It's the message of the hour. So I want you to see something here. I led you through all this for this reason. Revelation 17. The structure of Revelation 17 begins, when does it begin? When does Revelation 17 begin? When does it begin? 1798. He's carried to the wilderness. It tells the story of the healing of the deadly wound when these three powers come together. This is the story of how the deadly wound is healed. Deadly wound healed. Healed, E-D. You follow me? There's a lot more to say about Revelation 17, but I just want you to see the structure. Then when you get to Revelation 18, this is Revelation 18, you have the message of the hour. Okay? Daniel 11, verse 40, begins in 1798. That's verse 40. By verse 43, the deadly wound is healed. And then in verse 44 of Daniel 11, you got the tidings out of the east and the north, which is the message of the hour. It's the identical structure. It's the identical structure. On the testimony of two or three, a thing is established. Okay. Time's up? Oh, no, I got 2 minutes and 25 seconds. That's over. Okay, it's over. Time's up. Let's have a word of prayer. No. How long? Till 12:40. Okay, I want to show you one more thing. I'm passing over some of Revelation 17. We'll come back to it. But go to, in your notes, go to page 25. The prophetic structure. Maybe you don't get what I'm getting at here. 25. We're jumping forward. The prophetic structure, the way Revelation 17 is structured, it begins in 1798. It tells the story about how the deadly wound of the papacy is healed. And then Revelation 18 introduces us to the message of the hour. Daniel 11, 40 to 45 starts in 1798. It tells the story about how the deadly wound is healed. And then in verse 44, the tidings out of the east and the north, that's the message of the hour. They're the identical structure. Revelation 13, identical structure. Okay, I want you to see that. Go to page 25 under the prophetic structure, 1798. It says, at the time when the papacy robbed of its strength. When was the papacy robbed of its strength? 1798. John beheld a new power coming up out of the earth to echo the dragon's voice. Okay, at the time when the papacy, robbed of its strength, was forced to desist from persecution, John beheld a new power coming up to echo the dragon's voice and carry forward the same cruel and blasphemous work. This power, the last to wage war against the church and the law of God, is represented with the beast with lamb-like horns. The papacy was robbed of its strength in 1798, and then John beheld a beast coming up out of the earth. Who's that? The United States. Okay. And what's the story of Revelation 13? Verse 3. I saw one of his heads wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. Revelation 13 is about the healing of the deadly wound. That's where we get the term from, is Revelation 13. And once you get to the end of Revelation 13, the United States is forcing the whole world to worship the beast. And if you don't worship it, then what happens? You're put to death, you can't buy or sell. So Revelation 13 is all about the healing of the deadly wound. And what follows Revelation 13? Revelation 14, which is the message of the hour. It's the identical structure, brothers and sisters. What we're going to tell you about the last 6 verses of Daniel 11, it's the same story as Revelation 13, Revelation 17. You know what the difference is? You know what the difference is? Revelation 13 is about the United States. What role does the United States have in healing the deadly wound? Is it not? It's telling the story about the United States forcing the whole world to set up an image of the beast. Revelation 17, it's not so much about the United States. It's about the 10 kings. And the last 6 verses of Daniel 11, it's about the king of the north. So Revelation 13 is about the false prophet. Revelation 17 is about the dragon. And Daniel 11, 40 to 45, is about the beast. It's the same story, but from the perspective of the beast, the dragon, and the false prophet. So I want you to understand that when we go through the last 6 verses of Daniel 11, that what we're teaching, it's locked into the book of Revelation. It's immovable. The papacy is about to return to the throne of the earth, and God's people aren't ready. Probation's about to close, and God's people are not ready. We either get ready, or we're going to receive the mark of the beast in the very near future. That's what this message is. And some of you, it was a long night last night. You said till 40, right? 12:40? It was a long night last night for those of us that were here. Some of us weren't here. If you go back in your notes, go backwards in your notes. I want to take you to a quote. Page 9. There's several places, I don't have a quote in here, but there's several places in the Spirit of Prophecy where Sister White says there's a message of present truth for every generation. Okay, we have a special message for our generation, just like the Millerites had a special message for their generation, just like John the Baptist had a special message for his generation. Our responsibility as Seventh-day Adventists living at the end of the world is to figure out what our special message is. But when our special message comes at the end of the world, the Bible teaches us that it comes at a time when every wind of doctrine will be blowing. There are there are tons, let's say it that way, of messages in Adventism today. But there's only one message that is the special message for our time. Most Adventists don't believe that. If you will wrap your mind around it, it'll help clarify what your work is. Because you need to know what the special message is. Because that's the only reason that you're a Seventh-day Adventist. You've been called up to accept and experience and proclaim the special message for this generation. And if you don't know what that message is, then you're going to receive the mark of the beast. You may not like me saying it that way, but that's the facts. You've been called to do a work. If you don't know what the work is, you fail, right? I fail. All of us fail. We have to know what the message is. So last night, I heard at least 2 other messages last night in our group. Okay? And on page 9, I want to go over something with you again under a shut door message. It says there was a shut door in Noah's day. Does Jesus tell us that the history of Noah is the history of the end of the world? There was a shut door in Noah's day. There was at that time a withdrawal of the Spirit of God from the sinful race that perished in the waters of the flood. Is the Holy Spirit being withdrawn from planet Earth today? We read that last night from Testimonies, Volume 9. The earthquakes, the tidal waves, the Holy Spirit's being withdrawn. God himself gave the what? Shut door message. So when Sister White's talking about there being a shut door in Noah's day, she's saying in conjunction with there being a shut door, there is a shut door message. In Noah's day, when the door was shut, what does it represent? close of probation. The Lord doesn't close probation on a people without warning them.